So y'all, I know what you clicked here for. This is the real thing. I am doing this Doja Cat Say So dress DIY. It's literally one of the most favorite things I've ever made. It's like the Ariana Grande transformation and what I made with that. And then this one, when I saw Doja Cat wearing it, like, I had to have my own version. I freaking love Doja Cat. I love her style of music, and so to be able to transform into her is truly an honor. Anyway, let me stop rambling. If you would like to know how to make this Say So Doja Cat dress, please keep on watching. Okay, so these are the timestamps for the video, so you can jump to any which part. So if you decide not to sew the dress, you can just jump to the rhinestoning part. Also, all the materials will be linked down below as well as on my blog. So now is DIY time. So we are now doing the prep for this dress, and we are first going to take our fabric. I'm using this like Hachi fabric, baby fabric that's knit from Mood Fabrics, but any white knit fabric is fine, and it's super stretchy as you see. And so we're going to take that and we're going to fold it because all the pattern pieces are cut on the fold. But I'm taking my pattern piece, placing it on the fold, using rose quartz crystals to use as pattern weights, and I am cutting with my rotary cutter. And you know, just doing the basic stuff. Y'all have seen me do this a whole bunch of times before, but everything is cut on the fold, just to let you know. And you cut 2 sleeve parts as well. And I also cut the turtleneck, but I decided to cut that out because I cut it wrong. So anyway, now we're moving on to the fabric dye, and I'm taking this tulip fabric dye that came from like a pack. I don't know the specific name of it, but I'll try to find it and link it below. And I'm also using this Rit apple green dye to give more of that mint color. You don't need this color if you don't want it, but I suggest it if you want more of that like icy minty green. So I poured the blue dye in my little small container, and I mix it up like really good because it's powder dye, so you want it to dissolve into the water. And then now I'm taking my mint green. I added a little bit of that. I added a little bit more because I needed it to be more like minty, icy, winter fresh, you know. I'm testing it with a paper towel, and it was just a little bit too blue for me, so I added a little bit more green. And then I'm gonna let y'all have an ASMR moment real quick. Bam. I just thought it sounded really nice, but I'm pouring my dye into a bigger container with some more water because it was like way too intense blue, and we need like a light pastel blue. So I'm taking my pattern pieces and I filled up that smaller container with water because you needed to like wet your fabric first before you put it in the dye. So I just decided to do it container style instead of like having to wrestle it underneath a faucet. After that, I'm taking each pattern piece and dipping it in the dye until I'm satisfied. And keep in mind that it looks darker when it's wet and also when there's more dye because it's more saturated. Keep in mind that you eventually rinse it out and then it gets dried and it gets lighter. Okay, that's how we're doing it. So I'm just going to take all the pieces and do the same thing. I'm showing you guys how I rinsed out my pattern pieces, but I won't let y'all suffer through that much because the clip was horrible. Now we're moving on to construction. This is the front and back pattern or fabric pieces for the dress, and I'm just showing y'all how it came out, so it's more mint green than y'all saw. I'm going to take the front piece and lay it on top of the back piece and pin them and sew them at the shoulders. All right, so it should look like that, and that's where we're sewing at a 1/2 inch with a zigzag stitch. And I just want to show you that I'm actually sewing with tissue paper underneath because it helps to stabilize knits and stretchy fabrics. It's a pain in the ass to use with the zigzag stitch because all the paper gets stuck, and then you gotta spend like an hour plucking out the paper. Then I show you that I rip off the paper, which that's like the most satisfying part of the whole project, is ripping off the tissue paper. Now we're moving on to the sleeves. So I'm taking my sleeve, folding it in half, and then putting a pin at the top of the sleeve just to mark where the middle is, because that part is where we're going to attach the sleeve to the shoulder seams. So this is what the dress is looking like so far. So I'm going to open it up like that, boom, right? And we're going to pin the sleeve open like that to the armhole of the dress. I'm going to show y'all pinning the sleeve to the dress, which is honestly the easiest way to attach sleeves to dresses if you're not gathering them, or if you don't want to gather your sleeves. This is literally the best way to do it. It's so freaking easy. And I'm sorry for the angle, it's a little awkward, but you know, listen, we were working with what we got. I was trying to get this dress done. The second sleeve didn't fit, so what I'm taking is my turtleneck reference that I had for the sleeves and lying it on top of my sleeve pattern, and I'm double checking the sleeve curve to see if it fits, and it doesn't. It's not the same sleeve curve that the turtleneck has, so I'm gonna fix it. So I'm taking my pattern piece to really check to see if the arm curve was correct or not, and it wasn't. That I'm going to retrace the arm curve specifically of my turtleneck sleeve and kind of like make like a faux sleeve situation, but the curve is the most important. So I know y'all are like, yeah, you did that before, but wait y'all, and you can just do this on your pattern piece, but I just didn't want to cut up my pattern piece just in case it was wrong. So anyway, now I'm cutting that out, the arm curve part out, and I'm placing it on top of the turtleneck sleeve and making sure that the arm curve fits that turtleneck sleeve, and then making adjustments. So I kind of ran my pencil through the little divot that the seam makes of the arm curve, and then made my adjustments, and literally it was perfect. So now I'm placing that arm curve pattern piece on top of my sleeve that's folded in half, making sure that the armpits are aligned, retracing that curve onto my pattern piece, and then cutting it accordingly. And the sleeve for the arm curve for the sleeves fit like a dream. It was perfect. I was so happy, I almost cried tears of joy. So now I am pinning my sleeve to the arm curve. I don't want to show that all over again. And so now I'm taking it to the sewing machine, same thing, sewing it at 1/2 inch with the zigzag stitch with tissue paper underneath. And then now we have a dress. So we sewed at the shoulders, and then we sewed at the sleeves on there. So we only have left is the side seams and also the seams for the sleeves. So we're going to sew that all in one shot. So I'm making sure that the armpits of the dress are pinned together first, because that's literally like one of the most important parts of the dress. If the armpits don't fit, then nothing's gonna fit. So anyway, now we're going to pin all along the sleeve and all along the side seam and sew that all in one shot. I'm showing a little bit of pinning just so y'all know exactly where I'm gonna sew, but I won't make you guys suffer through seeing me pin for like 20 minutes. Okay, now we're taking that to the sewing machine, and we're just gonna continue to sew like we've been sewing. And like I said, just make sure that once you're finished sewing, and like what I like to do is just finish the whole dress and then pluck the tissue paper out of the seams and all that stuff. So now this is what the dress is looking like. It's a real ass dress. Okay, so we're going to turn the dress inside out, right? So it's looking like that, and we're going to hem the sleeves and also the actual hem of the dress. So I'm folding it back, I think 1/4 inch, because if I folded it back even more, the sleeves would have been a little bit too short. So I'm doing 1/4 inch instead of 1/2 inch, and I'm pinning it. And the same thing I'll do for the other sleeve. And then now we're moving down to the hem, and I'm leveling the hem out a little bit just to make sure that's straight. And then I'm folding it back. I believe this one was 1/2 inch, and pinning it. And we're going to sew. I did zigzag stitch for the sleeves and a straight stitch for the hem, but I do recommend the zigzag stitch for the hem. So the whole reason why we do the zigzag stitch is because it will stretch with the fabric, and this fabric that I use is really, really stretchy. So I would have went back and did a zigzag stitch instead of a straight stitch, but I did a straight stitch only because that's like the only seam you will really see. It just, would have been a little bit too much to see the zigzag on that hem. So now we're moving on to the actual turtleneck. So I did not cut the turtleneck pattern piece on the fold, so that's why I have 2 different pieces, and that's why they're 2 different colors. We're going to actually sew them together so it's one piece. And I'm going to pin and sew at a 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So that's what the seam looks like. And then I also cut the seam allowance as well because we don't want the turtleneck to be too bulky. So like I said, I'm going to do that on the other side as well, just so we close the turtleneck so it becomes an actual turtleneck. But I know you guys can't see it, but I folded the turtleneck hot dog style like that and then pinned the seams together. So now I'm flipping it inside out like magic, Shazam. And then I'm going to take the shoulder seam of the dress right there and then pin it to the raw edge at the seam of the turtleneck, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. I'm pinning it to the other side. Now I'm sewing the collar down, still with the tissue paper, at, I believe, at 1/2 inch. My collar did not fit tight to my neck, so I kind of, pinched it at the back and then kind of drew out the excess in a diagonal line, kind of like a dart, and then sewed it there where that line is. So now we are going to move on to rhinestoning. So now I'm going to give y'all a few options because the method that I did is the most accurate to the original dress. However, it is the most labor intensive. So these are the ways that you can add rhinestones to the dress to get a very similar effect to Doja Cat. You can sew or glue rhinestone trim to the dress in stripes. You can also cut up some rhinestone ribbon and also glue it or sew it to the dress. You can use glitter if you want to and make glitter dots, glitter nail polish, and put that as rhinestones for the dress. So those are the couple of ways that you can do it instead of the method I did, because I know not everybody wants to spend all that time rhinestoning. So anyway, back to regularly scheduled programming. So we are going to make like a little measurement tool to make sure that our rhinestones are spaced out evenly. So you'll need ribbon that's 1 centimeter wide, masking tape, and a pen. I'm using my cutting mat for this as well, but I'm going to tape my ribbon onto the cutting mat, making sure it's at a straight line-ish, and pull it taut so it's like really straight. And then I'm going to take my meter stick. It's not really a yard. I thought it was a yard, but then I saw over on the other side where the centimeters is at, I was like, oh shoot, it got 100 centimeters. So it's actually a meter stick. So anyway, we're going to align the meter stick along with the ribbon, and then take our pen and then mark the centimeters, onto the ribbon to make it into like a ruler situation. All right, so I did my 2 lines or ribbons, and I did 2 just in case like the dress is longer than the ribbon, which it probably is. And so I can just pin those 2 ribbons onto the dress, blah, blah, blah. And then here's a cinematic shot of my centimeter ribbon if you didn't see it before. So now this is the dress. It's laid out. She's looking beautiful. So I'm going to take some paper and then I'm going to wrap it in wax paper, tape it, and then stuff it in the dress just to make sure that when we rhinestone, we don't glue the dress together. And so wax paper is the perfect paper to use. The glue also peels off of the wax paper because it's non-stick paper. So after we made sure the whole dress was covered, I taped the ribbon onto my cutting mat in a straight line to mark the first row of the rhinestones. And now I'm using my most favorite glue of all time, which is the best glue to use for this type of dress and also the fabric. And I'm going to put a dot of glue for every centimeter that's marked on the ribbon. And also I'm using a nail dotter, for nail art to do that because that's just the easiest. And then I'm going to take my tweezers and my rhinestones and put rhinestones on top of where we just put the glue. When we're done with that row, I'm going to pick up that ribbon, move it over to beside and line it up beside that rhinestone row. all the way down the dress and put glue on both sides of the ribbon. But make sure you do it in sections so it doesn't dry. But then we're just going to add rhinestones to it. And we're going to do that for the whole ass dress. So again, once we're done with those 2 rows, we're going to move the ribbon over. And then also that was like the first method I used because the dress was too long for the cutting board. But I used a different method a little bit later. So now when you do space out your ribbon or place your ribbon, instead of lining it against the previous rhinestone row, I actually spaced it out a centimeter out. So you do 2 rows of rhinestones at a time. So it kind of, you kind of get more done. The next day, this is what it's looking like, or a day and a half technically. So this is the second method of me putting the ribbon down on the dress. So I kind of measure out from the last rhinestone row a centimeter. Then I pin the ribbon onto the dress because that just makes it a ton easier than making sure that the ribbon's straight and blah, blah, blah. Also, don't make sure that the ribbon's straight. Just like make sure it's straight for like the first 2 rows. Then after that, like the dress is not a straight thing. So it's okay if your lines curve. It's okay if the rhinestones aren't spaced out correctly. Like as long as there's rhinestones on the dress, you're okay. So just do the whole front first and then the whole back afterwards. And just make sure that where you put glue is where the wax paper is underneath. Because especially with this glue, it's, super duper strong. So make sure that your space is protected. And so once I'm done with those 2 rows, I take out the pins and then lift up the ribbon. I don't want to keep it there for that long because it will be stuck to the glue, and the glue, like I said, is super strong. So now the whole dress is covered in rhinestones. So now we have the sleeves to do, but look at this beauty. Look at this beauty. And it's all shiny. And then so now I'm taking that same ribbon that has the dots on it and I'm going to pin it to the sleeves. And then I'm going to cut it. And then I'm going to use my ruler, measure out a centimeter, and then place the next row of ribbon there. And I'm going to do a few of these before I start rhinestoning, so it just takes up less time. But like I said, if this is too much for you, you can use the other options that I listed. But I feel like this is the best option, especially to get the accuracy of what Doja Cat was wearing. You know what I mean? Also, I use 4mm rhinestones, and I think she used about 6mm rhinestones that are on her dress, which are way bigger, so you get way more bling as well. But 4mm rhinestones was the only size I had, and especially in the quantity that I needed it to. I used about 8,000 rhinestones for this whole dress. Yes, you heard it right, 8,000 rhinestones, so it's a lot. So anyway, once this is over, you'll see some shots of the dress, and then that'll be it. All right, so that's the sleeve finished, and then you do it on the other side, and then you do it on the back, and then you're pretty much done. So this is what the dress looks like finished, and I was living my Doja Cat fantasy. I was feeling it. I was feeling the sparkle. I was feeling, just the luxuriousness, and that it's something that like I really love wearing. It's comfortable. I love the fabric. Just everything about it is just beautiful. So we're just gonna wrap up this video. Okay, so we're finally done with this goddamn dress. This dress took forever to make. The sewing was fine. It was the rhinestoning that literally took forever. It took me 20 hours to rhinestone everything. Yeah, you heard right. 20 hours. Now, I do this for a living, so I was having a ball. I was having a lot of fun. But it still took a really, really long time compared to what I thought it would take. But I just wanted to stick to as close to the original as possible. But please check out my blog for any additional notes, wash instructions, you know, other ways to DIY stuff, because I know not everybody wants to spend 20 hours rhinestoning, even though if you pop in a few movies or binge watch a series that has like, you know, 10 seasons, then you're good. But I freaking love this color. I feel like this is like a bad bitch color. Like, you know, if someone can pull off mint green, like, she the shit, or he the shit, or they the shit, whatever you identify as is the shit. But if you like this video, please share it. Please share it on Facebook, on Twitter, if you can, on Instagram. You know, share it to the world, share it to other people who would love to know how to make this dress and recreate this dress. And if you do recreate this dress, please tag me at TZSeason on Instagram, and I will repost you on my Instagram page as well. The makeup tutorial for this look will be coming out very, very soon. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So please subscribe if you haven't already. And I also want to give a shout out to It's Tiana X on Instagram, because I saw her do the rendition of this makeup. Like, it was a light bulb in my head. Like, literally, I was like, oh, let me do that transformation, because it's easy. I already had the fabric, had the rhinestones, so I was like, let me just do it. And I think that's pretty much it. So please love yourself, and I will see you next video. Mwah!